So the first category is about seasonal services. So let's talk about that first. So what lawn care services and other landscape related services do you offer for each season? So like for example, is there spring cleanup and then there might be fall leaf removal? Let's go over all the different seasons and how that impacts landscaping and lawn care.
Okay. So spring season, everything's growing. So we're doing a lot more. We're taking on new clients. We are cleaning up a mess from fall or from the winter. People have been inside camping out, not really being outside and enjoying their outdoors until it's nice enough to get outside and then they see it's a mess. So the cleanup guys, we got to clean it up and maintain it. And we'll do mowing and edging and blowing, clean up the flower beds, put down bark, beautify, maybe do a little bit of alterations to the property. And yeah, if a robot mower is suitable for your property, we'll throw that down and get that going for you. Summer, summer, we still have a lot of work going on where but things might dry out a little bit for our season for Pacific Northwest. The lawn slows down on growth. Everything slows down a little bit. There's a little lull, which gives us some breathing room, which is good. And we can catch up on things and take on more projects and things. Fall is when all the leaves fall and all the wind is blowing. And in addition to landscaping, we do Christmas lighting. But yeah, there's a lot of work to do. We're less mowing, more blowing, more leaf cleaning. And then winter months, it's just maintaining these accounts. It might be a time for us to catch up after all the leaves have fallen because the weeds might have been put off a little bit because we just want to get all those leaves out. There's so much of it. So winter is a catch up and a cleanup and a prep for spring.
Yeah, I'd say under that, idea of prepping for spring, mulch, putting down mulch in winter is actually a good time, because if you can catch, these properties getting caught up, sometimes they have a little bit of extra leaves and get picked up. We're milder, we're not always under a deep freeze, so it's not too hard to get the last little bits of leaves raked up and put fresh mulch down, which helps with, the spring weeds. That's a good natural way to, eco-friendly way to address that. Also, it's good to think about in fall, shutting off irrigation and spring starting up irrigation.
Right.
We want to make sure they're maintained well. A lot of times over the summer, that's when the irrigation, fixes because people are turning them on, trying to water things. That's when they find problems. If we didn't start them up or we didn't maintain them, we'll do some troubleshooting around that, but we can install the systems as well. But yeah, and then yeah, we love the holidays. The Christmas lights are super fun.
There is something that someone like a homeowner could and probably should be doing in every season when it comes to landscaping, right? Instead of what the typical person would do is to procrastinate, do nothing, wait until spring when things are crazy in their yard and then ask for help, right? That's probably the least
We're
ideal.
cleaning up those accounts right now.
So what's ideal is for somebody is to do some type of good maintenance project every season. And that's what
Yeah.
it sounds like. Is that correct?
Yeah, and
Yes.
people do have a lot of different vegetation too, but a lot of things, trees and things can be trimmed back in the wintertime here when we have kind of it's because we don't have that deep, deep freeze. Other ones you're gonna wait to trim back till after they bloom. So, some of that summer trimming is gonna happen after the explosive growth and the blooms happen. Summertime, we can be trimming back some of those. I know a lot of the hedges, after spring, getting into summer are just exploding, and they need to get kind of cleaned back up.
Yeah. Specifically about lawns, how can I prepare my lawn for the upcoming season? And right now, like you said, at the time of this recording, we're doing this in springtime, so we're thinking about summer. But right
Correct.
before every season, there's some sort of prep to do, right? Like what
Mhm.
kind of prepping should we do?
So we could do a weed control. So say if you have weeds in your lawn, we can apply a solution to um, take control of that. And then we want to do is fertilize the lawn. By fertilizing the lawn, we're getting the soil healthy for the lawn to grow from and have the nutrients available to have a healthy lawn. And when we have fertilized lawn, there's less chances for weeds to take over. Allowing your your lawn to dry out and become dormant in the summer. And then all these weed seeds gets introduced. So, in addition to that, just like Derek was saying, keep up on that irrigation. If you don't have irrigation, we always try to push, who's going to be watering this? You're investing all this money into your property, whether it be some landscape, some plants, or the lawn. If you have no way to automate that watering, we can't warrant you it. So it's really hard. And we want to be proud of what we do, not just when we do it, but going forward. So
Yeah, and our fertilization program too, it does have different uh, synthetic and organic elements to it, and they are tuned for the season. Like the early spring application is going to have a little bit of mouse control for our area mixed in with it. And we can do that targeted weed control. But as it goes into summer, the formula changes a little bit. But yeah, the organics are really important to feed the microorganisms in the lawn. That's what a lot of companies miss. Like your True Greens, and I don't want to blow out, all these companies, but a lot of times they just go for that quick greening that makes the customer happy. And what they can actually do is actually be turning the lawn into a sterile environment. So we really want to make sure that when we're doing it, we are putting, things that green it, but we're also feeding the microorganisms through good organics.
and when it comes to the late fall, we apply a fertilizer that will bring the energy back into the roots. So then in spring, you have a better chance to just be popping.
Yeah,
Yeah, if they have a good fall program, they'll have a good spring growth.
got it. Let's stay on the topic of lawns and lawn problems that people have. And
Sure.
uh, how can I deal with common lawn problems, issues, things like weeds and grubs and brown patches and dead areas on my lawn?
Yeah. Well, I got to put a plug in first for robotic mowers. So, one of the really unique things is because the robotic mowers are micro mulching, it requires less fertilizer. It's actually healthier for the soils. It's actually giving that good organic. Whether people are just cutting and throwing it away, they're pulling nutrients and they're slowly taking deposits out of the lawn. And then the weeds actually grow faster than the grass. Up here in the Northwest, we deal with dandelions, and you can mow, and the next day they pop back up seed, and off they go. But if these are cutting every day or every other day, it actually keeps those grasses lower. There's some fine seeding grasses like poa that if it can nip it before that kind of wild seed goes, it can improve the quality of the lawn.
Cool. Are there other tips for dealing with those dead lawn patches? That goes back to fertilization also, I guess.
Yeah. And watering.
And then because the robotic mower is actually leaving the lawn clippings, that helps the health of the lawn as well, right?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's easier. Some people will mulch. They'll have a service that mulches because they know intuitively it's better. If you really want to do it, you would want to cut like twice a week to mulch fine clippings. And that's just a lot of work. Whereas the robotic mowers, it's no extra work to have them. That's just how they work every day or every other day.
It's like built in. Right on.
Yeah.
And a, and a
Built
nice
in.
and a nice thing about, like, if you're a push mowing and mulching, you might be leaving clumps behind. These do not leave clumps behind. So if you want to go and play in your yard, you're not tracking in clumps of grass into your house later.
Yeah.
Right.
That actually happened to us this spring because we were kind of had one of our lawns here at my house where we were letting it grow a little bit to test some new rider mowers. And the kids were out playing with some gel blaster guns they had, and they were just tracking in tons of these clippings because we had manually mowed it. And my wife's like, "Can we just not let the manual mower go? We want to have the robotic mower because I'm tired of the dining room having grass all over it with these kids running in and out. 5 kids in the house right now. There's a lot of grass that comes in.
Oh, that's interesting. Hey, let's compare professional lawn care compared to a do-it-yourself solution when it comes to lawn. So, and also you might want to think like when I think of that, I'm like, okay, again, the average person mowing their own lawn, they're waiting a long time, so it creates problems, and then then it's harder on the mower and all this stuff. So, what would be the advantages between just hiring a professional lawn care company versus the do-it-yourself solution?
The consistency. A person might go, "Hey, I'm going to mow this weekend, but wait, it's raining." and then the lawn doesn't get mowed until the next dry day, and then they don't have time to mow it. And so, as with anything with growth and consistency is going to help with just having a pristine lawn all the time and a healthier lawn. So if you're cutting off, for example, the rule of thumb for mowing a lawn, you don't want to cut off more than a third of the grass at any one time.
Mm.
With these robotic mowers, you're cutting off fractions of an inch at a time. It's not a problem at all. It's healthier for the lawn, and it's a finer cut with the sharp blades that we use. Um, but having inconsistency and having to like catch up on a mow that say your lawn grew 6 inches and you don't want it to be 6 inches next time you mow, so you cut it down by more than half, then the lawn's going to struggle. It's gonna get more of those bare patches, and it's not healthy. So yeah.
Yeah. Two things that really stresses the lawn, like Ethan was saying, those heavy cuts that amount of time to catch up. Also, most homeowners aren't going to sharpen their mower blades. It's something we regularly have as a professional service. We keep our blades sharp, they cut better, but it also stresses the grass. If you have a dull blade, which most homeowners aren't going to have the right grinders and things to sharpen their blades, they're just going to have it just mowing all season. Mower might be a couple years old. Those blades are dull. Those cut grass, but it's more like tearing grass. If you look at the blades, they're actually just real sheared at the top instead of a nice clean cut. Again, even when we have fresh, clean mower blades, you can't really beat the robotic blades because they're just really fine, moving really fast, and they just cut really crisp.
Awesome. Okay. Interesting. I never even thought about this. I didn't know about the one third thing, that rule of thumb, Ethan. That was fascinating to me. And the
Yeah.
health of the lawn. And I never think of this stuff. Just chop it off.
Yeah.
But that's smart. That's cool. Okay. Let's go over more of your services. So do you offer different landscaping services for residential and commercial properties?
Yes, because commercial is gonna be so residential might be a little more seasonal. Sometimes they just want, just during the growing season, and they're okay with it going to uh, getting a little messy over the winter maybe, and then having us catch up on it in spring. Um, and not all commercial properties are going to have a lawn to mow. But what we do is we come with our same people and the same equipment, or providing a quiet service. We're blowing, cleaning off the sidewalks and maintaining the flower beds and keeping garbage picked up out of them and stuff like that for commercial.
Yeah, knowing how to, effectively trim hedges and shrubs and kind of identify, what needs to be pruned at different times is really key. How to make, good cuts. A lot of people will just say, "Hey, look at this bush," just round it off. Well, as we've kind of learned about these things, you can actually trim the size of it down by going in and cutting, selectively, which removes the size. Because if you cut it and just round it, what's going to happen is it's going to send the growth right to the edges and they're going to just pop back out right at the edges. But if you actually take that growth, the long bits here and there, by selectively picking branches or areas out, it'll reduce it and shape it in size. And the new growth will be lower and it'll make it more full rather than just always being frilly at the top and real bare in the middle.
Okay. Can you let's talk more about your commercial services for a minute. I know you do like the irrigation, weed treatment, removal, leaf, one-time cleanups, that kind of thing. Tell me all the different kinds of things that you guys commonly do, and then maybe give it examples of some projects. Let's talk about the commercial side for a minute.
Sure. So, oftentimes we'll get on a rooftop in the top of commercial properties, and rooftops will have green spaces. Some of them have like a ground cover. It's not quite a lawn, but it's like succulents on the lawn up there, and they need to be maintained because there's weeds that are going to be introduced to those. So we're going up there, we're pulling the weeds, or we're addressing those weeds, and sometimes we even have a robot mower up there. It's just because there's so many weeds, it's impossible to get them all, other than just having a robot maintain kind of a consistent look. Um, let's see, what was the question again? So keep what do we do for commercial? Um, they might have us replant and spruce up and beautify like the ground floor or even the rooftop plants, and fix the irrigation. There's drip irrigation and there's the regular in-ground irrigation systems. If if the irrigation on the rooftop, generally the roof is where the damages are. We'll gain access to the piping that might be busted from them not winterizing the irrigation system before winter came about. And so we'll do fixes up there. Uh,
So you guys do installs of irrigation systems.
we do on a case by case, and it's not a big push for us
Right.
since,
What
yeah,
kind do you do, and like when does it make sense, and when is it something you might not want to do? For it's just not a good fit, and when is it a good fit?
we like to steer towards if it's a residential property, we'll offer more irrigation. And the irrigation we like to use is like really techie. I mean, smart irrigation, and not just a smart controller that optimizes if it's raining or not and stuff, but uh, like one sprinkler head to replace 6 to 9 sprinkler heads, and that it's fit just to the contours of your property. So, and it uses less water, so you have less water waste, and it's controllable by your phone, and you can control it remotely, and all these things. And that's good for lawns. So when it comes to landscape, um, we can still install some of the traditional irrigation as well and fix and troubleshoot existing systems. Um, so we'll do, yeah. So, is there anything else there?
I just think, in the commercial services, one of my favorite things to do is really just kind of a facelift. A lot of times owners of these commercial properties are trying to, bring in more tenants, or ownership maybe changes, or management companies change, and they want like refresh, like a facelift. So we'll go in and say, if you pull out these big weeds, remove a couple bushes, put fresh mulch down, we check the irrigation's running, and we put XYZ new plants in. That's probably like 70% of our projects in the commercial regions, is kind of those facelifts. Like they want to make a marked improvement. They want to show their tenants that, hey, we're beautifying these spaces. We're using professional company to find the right plants that are going to be good for shade areas versus full sun. And we have some great connections with nurseries where we get, good wholesale and resellers set up, so we can, do it beneficially for us and for our customers, rather than them trying to, have their management company source plants and buy them and know how to, put them in right. We always grab, really good quality planting mix and startup fertilizers. We dig the holes, carefully, and just make sure that they, succeed. That's why we really do want to make sure that irrigation is up to date. And yeah, those irrigation on the roofs, I tell you what, it's not a joke. Just a little background. Here in Washington, we have a couple deep freezes a year, so it is important to blow out the irrigation. But typically in a residence, or even at the ground level of a building, you're going to have a certain amount of soil that's going to insulate those irrigation pipes. On rooftops, which almost all new buildings are doing, they're having some green spaces and potted plants or the succulent gardens. The rooftops aren't buried. They're typically just like under a layer of, pavers or hardy plank, and they're exposed to the freezing temperatures, especially at high elevation. So if they're not blown up, they almost all tremendous amount of. So I mean, owners of these buildings and property managers need to realize that blowing out of irrigation is super critical on the roofs. It's best practice for ground floors, but there will be major expensive costs. It's a lot cheaper to have us come out and blow it out and have it all signed off than to have the fixes in the spring.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, and it sounds like I'm sure commercial properties owners, they're always concerned about price. They're getting bids and estimates, but it sounds like they care more about just the price. They want to know that you guys know what you're doing and that there's value, right? So it sounds like you bring a lot of value to it. So my next question is, what if back to being a homeowner again? So can you help somebody like me design a custom landscape plan? Now, this would be a good time to talk about the differences between landscape architects or landscape designers versus landscapers. I mean, those words are thrown around all over the place. So help me understand what that what is a
Yeah.
plan and can you do
Yeah.
that? What don't you do?
Well, a lot of people think about the sod for their yard, so they're thinking like, "Oh, I want to make sure my grass looks good." There's a kind of a rule of thumb. If this, really old, really beaten, and or more than 50% weeds, you might want to look at resodding. There's two basic ways to do that. You can, well, there's a couple ways you could, knock the grass really short, kill and then reseed it. You could do a little bit of lawn renovation, just try to work with the existing, add some extra soils, add extra seed. You can also rip it completely out and start fresh with new sod. We're really good with new sod applications, and that's a good time to think about like, hey, if you're going to redo your lawn, maybe add, a little garden bed right here and garden bed there. We're not going like heavy into hardscapes and water features at this point. Really, it's like garden beds and good lawn conditions is going to be kind of the main things. Maybe put a tree in, some extra flowers, nothing too crazy, nothing where you're going to have a architect and you're going to have to spend 5, 6 figures on the design and then find the right contractors to put all the pieces together. It's more just, hey, I want to have a better looking yard and I need a little professional help. We're here for you.
And then also in addition to that, if we're already there and we're talking about robot, we can modify things on the property to be suitable for a robot. So it can traverse an area that might not be as traversable in the past and things like that. So yeah, great.
Yeah. Also, we are living in a very wet state. Wet, soggy lawns, at least for ours, is a big issue. Um, we have worked, kind of getting things strained out, and we actually have some good people we work with that prep sites all the times and do good, friends trains and systems like that. So, yeah, soggy lawns need to get fixed up. We got some solutions for that too.
I was just going to ask about the Pacific Northwest. It has its own unique challenges. So you kind of
Yep,
touched on that already. Yeah, it's wet, but in the spring, it makes it really green for a while, right? It's pretty nice.
it's green. It grows so fast, but yeah, we love it.
How about somebody that wants help with choosing the best plants or specific soil and sun, for different soil and sun conditions or different layouts of properties? Are you guys familiar with doing that? And do you enjoy that part? And do you help people do that?
Um, we haven't done a lot of like taking them with us to a nursery or anything. We might offer solutions or present them like a, a catalog online where they can find some plant and give us an idea of what they want, and then we can go shop for the closest thing and bring it to their property and put it where it needs to go. Um, yeah, but yeah, not a lot of, I don't want to say hand holding, but I mean,
Yeah, but
we haven't done a lot of like taking them there, but that might be an option to consider if somebody wants to really be involved. We could
um,
bring them to their tree.
and now, what if somebody doesn't want to be involved and they just want to trust you to do it? Will you help figure out what flowers and what things to put in a bed and all that?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we definitely have some go-tos that are, really good in the Pacific Northwest, that just love it here, and so we have some of those in our back pocket that we like to refer. If people want to get a little specialized after that, we'd say, "Hey, yeah, they really need to go and get some, help, master gardener or someone that, wants to do some unique things." But, the Pacific Northwest is pretty good climate. It's fairly mild. So, it's not too hard to grow a lot of things here, but
And
it
you
is still important to irrigate them, especially when they're first planted. They
And
need to have a good watering system.
what's also interesting is a lot of these commercial accounts when we offer plants, they want something that's low maintenance. So what that usually means is something that it doesn't that's pretty drought tolerant, that people can trample a little bit and usually not die, and things that just don't put off a lot.
and
They don't
ground
grow, they don't
ground
grow
or
too fast.
what about uh, budgets? Let's talk about budgets for a minute. So you guys do custom estimates and all of that, right? And you offer sort of different kinds of custom lawn care and landscape maintenance that are tailored to somebody's budget. or do you just charge a certain price for everything, or how does that work with you guys?
What we generally do is we try to use kind of an hourly rate mindset. How long is it going to take for us to do X, Y, and Z for this property, and how often are we going there? Um, and then we do is we combine that one visit service and to the quantity or the frequency of visits per month, and then we come up with an answer. Everything's pretty much custom because every property is unique. Everyone is different. Sometimes though, if you've done a commercial property and it takes about a 1 man hour to maintain it, and you see another one, you're like, I could do that in 1 man hour. You could just almost copy and paste that estimate and make a few alterations and just send it off to the other one. It'd be the same price. So some things are easy to just, yeah, copy and paste and move on.
And for residential, do you, well, I'm sorry, what were you going to say, Derek?
I just said, one of the things that's a little easier to kind of be in budget is if people know kind of what they want to spend. There's some really great options for financing. The robotic mowers, at least, the lawn and the cutting of it can be a really expensive part of it. If people purchase these units, there's really low affordable monthly prices on low to no interest plans that can be really budget friendly for people too.
Great. Okay, great. And I was just going to ask if somebody's on say it's residential and they're on a more limited budget, is it still maybe worth it to talk to you guys? Do you have more economy level options?
Yes, we do. So if they want to have the lawn mowed, and we can just set them up with a robot, they can just do that and take a lot of labor away from them. We don't have to come out very often, maybe once a quarter versus every other week or weekly to come out and maintain it. We might have to get our hands out there a little bit at first just to make small alterations to make it work. But yeah, we had one past Mountain Loop Highway. That was just that the bot was out there, and it was
Yeah, it was an Airbnb.
yeah.
Interesting. I bet a lot of Airbnb owners would be interested in this service. I didn't even, yeah, that's got to be huge, right? Because they have to keep it up, but they're not it's not a commercial property technically. They're trying to make a little extra money on the side by renting their place or whatever.
Yeah, and
So,
sometimes Airbnbs are in somewhat remote places that it might be harder to find a good landscaper out there.
yeah.
So having a robot can be a really great solution for someone that's got an Airbnb. And I just say too, one of the benefits too is when we establish our robotic mowing services or robots as a service, we can lock them in to an agreement where their price won't change. So if they're on a budget and they go, oh, like a retiree, like I know what I can pay, we can say, hey, if you lock in your price with us, you commit to using our robotic mowers, we can actually give you a solid price where their landscapers, there's a lot of pressure to raise with inflation. It can be 5% this year, 15% next year. And what they could afford one year, now they suddenly can't. Now they're shopping around and they're doing all that work to find another one. Whereas if they just lock in with our agreement, they just know the mowing's taken care of for X dollars and it's going to be that way for a set amount of time.
The only thing that changes with that is our labor hours. If we have to come out and do anything extra, then we're charging our then current rate for our labor.
But that's another beauty of the robots. Gives you that other flexibility that wouldn't normally happen. One more subject I wanted to talk about. Not on the robot side so much, but more on the eco-friendly part of Whisper. What is your policy on pesticide use, and what organic or eco-friendly alternatives do you offer if somebody is concerned about that?
Derek, you might talk about this one.
Sure. Having been in pest control and different markets before that, I'm very familiar. I used to have an applicator license, so I know a lot about both the synthetic and the organic things that are out there. We definitely have options for both. It's most important to think about what are the alternative solutions if you don't want to use chemicals, because we know there are chemicals, they will work. There are synthetic solutions that can get the job done, and we will utilize our best judgment, and we'll talk to the customer too and kind of see what their preferences are, what they're comfortable with. There's ways to put product down that prevent growth. So instead of having to spray something, there's granules that are really simple that aren't going to be sprayed, not going to be in the air. There are use of organic fertilizers that are 100% naturally based that can feed and help the lawn to grow. People could be on a full plan. Now, I will say the organic, like weed controls, can be good for things like, lake homes or people that have, sensitivities. Just know that they are going to be mostly topical. One of the most common ones is household vinegar, and it can kill the weeds. The only problem there is it's not going to affect the roots. So you do need someone on a regular basis to apply it. So it can be a little more labor, it can be a little more costly, but it can be 100%, safe, natural. Vinegar is just an acid-based solution. Acids exist all around us and not going to be really dangerous to pets or anything, even after they're sprayed and applied. That being said, we're always looking for good solutions, and we're going to talk about controls like mulch, like we've mentioned. Mulch can be a great way to control weeds, and then you could just do a little bit of hand pulling here and there. We're not opposed to that, although we do have to go on hourly rate. The other ones that we use are going to be more kind of preventative, just to kind of keep the lawn, like Ethan said, low maintenance. A lot of our commercial clients, a really simple preventative product that we can put down in granular form is going to be really simple and easy, and it's going to keep the maintenance down. Because if a customer does choose to go completely without anything, and they want weeding done, whacking the weeds or hand pulling, it's going to make the labor go up. So there's going to be more of a cost.
That's great. You guys offer a lot of options. It's fantastic. Well, that's it for today. Thank you both, Ethan and Derek, very much from Whisper. GoWhisper.com, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
you got it, Justin.
Yeah. So let's tell everybody, how do they find out about you more real quick? Like if somebody's interested and they want to have you come out, what do they need to do? What's the first steps? Where do they go?
They could check us out on our website at gowhisper.com. And they could communicate with us through chat or request an estimate with us. You can find us on Facebook.
You offer free estimates also as well, right?
Yes, we
Yep,
do.
estimates are free, and we will go, out to site. We'll, contact them if we can see it well enough from Google views or different things like that. We can usually give them a little bit of ballpark, but before we give them a final estimate, we can be on site and talk to them, and it's really the best way to establish a relationship too, is to be out there with them. Usually, we can get out within a few days after they contact us.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. This was really good today. Worked out well.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks
we're
again.